Okay, I'm going to let everyone in. We're streaming live.
Okay. Thanks, Anne. We'll just wait a few minutes for everybody to join us.
He's looking for the link.
Should we resend it to him?
I can email it to him right now.
Yeah, it couldn't hurt.
And while we're waiting for Dr. Skelly to join us, Armando, let me introduce Armando Reyes. He is our interpreter for this evening, our Spanish interpreter. Armando will explain how to log into the interpretation services.
Buenas tardes a todos, soy Armando Ramírez, voy a ser el intérprete para esta reunión. Si usted necesita interpretación, por favor, abajo de la pantalla va a haber un globo. Si usted hace clic en ese globo, le va a mostrar la opción de entrar al salón de interpretación en español. Haga clic en español y entonces lo va a llevar ahí donde yo voy a estar interpretando para ustedes. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Miss Sandy.
Thank you, Armando. It's always good to see you here. And we're just waiting for Dr. Skelly to join us.
He's in.
Oh, he's in. Okay, great. So if anybody has questions throughout the evening, we had a lot of pre-submitted questions, which is great, and they're all excellent questions. Feel free to, if you look in the chat, there is a link for you to submit questions to a form, and then I will get to those after we go through the pre-submitted questions. So today is March 23rd, and it's 7:04, and I'm calling the general meeting of the San Mateo High School PTO to order. Thank you. Tonight, joining us, we have our superintendent, Dr. Kevin Skelly, and our principal, Miss Yvonne Shiu, and we're going to be discussing the return to school, the plan to return to school next week. Our teachers are setting up this week. They'll all be back tomorrow in the school preparing for the arrival of all the students. What an exciting time. It's been a year plus a few days, but it looks like we're finally going to get some students back in classes, and this is great news. I'll give Dr. Skelly a moment. Did you want to introduce yourself and say hello first? And then we'll go into the Q&A after you and Principal Shiu introduce yourselves.
Sure. I'll just say that I've been to a couple football games. Today, I invited all the district office staff to look out on the field while the dance program started, doing, well, I think they've been doing it for, this is the second week, but they were dancing out on the field. And the joy was palpable out there. And, it's starting to, the song, it's starting to feel a lot like Christmas. Well, it's starting to feel a lot like reopening, and it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a lift. It's like getting out of the mud, when your car is stuck, but we'll get there. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Skelly. I also want to remind everybody that we are recording this event and it will be posted on the San Mateo High School PTO website either tomorrow or the next day. Most likely tomorrow, though. Next, I'd like to introduce our principal, Miss Yvonne Shiu.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's going to be hopefully a very informative evening for you. I know a lot of the pre-submitted questions were about graduation. Just so that you know, we will be holding another meeting on Thursday to answer specific questions about kind of return to school and expectations for students with kind of a presentation. Friday is also a freshman orientation. And so we look forward to seeing your students on campus. Tomorrow is the first day for many of our teachers and staff to return to campus. We are also doing COVID testing for our students over the next several days. And so hopefully you have gotten our correspondence and have emailed any of the administrators regarding any questions that might have come up regarding this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Hopefully you also have seen that the next 3 days are asynchronous. This is to allow teachers to kind of assimilate back to campus since many of them have not been there for probably the past year. And so they will be on campus tomorrow, kind of setting up, make sure all their technology is in order, that they have their safety stations ready to go, and just to kind of go over some protocols that we have for them and expectations for students. So we're really looking forward to it. And a lot of people have put a lot of time and effort in making the opening of school a safe opening for the spring. And so we look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, Ms. Shiu. Okay, so let's get started with our questions. We have several. And once again, like I said, if you have additional questions, please feel free to submit them to the link that's listed in the chat. So our first question of the evening is, will our teachers physically be in the classroom teaching classes?
San Mateo has over 90 teachers on campus. There are approximately 20 teachers who have gone through the interactive process in HR to continue working from home for various reasons. Hopefully, they have communicated that to you or will do so over the next couple of days, letting your students know whether or not they will be on campus or not. We do expect the majority of them, probably about 70 of them, to be on campus. And so they will be on campus. I know a lot of the questions have to do with kind of what instruction will look like. And so I'll go into that if that's okay. Teachers will be Zooming in the room. And so students that are returning to campus will have to bring their device with them, whether or not it's a school-issued Chromebook or their own device. And they will be in the classroom, logged on to the classroom, as well as the teacher, and as well as the students at home.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. Our next question is, please clarify the following. 1, the security of in-person students in class and on campus if fewer teacher staff are physically present. And 2, many students will have personal laptops at school. How will these be secured during PE?
So the district has graciously provided extra staffing in terms of campus security. So we do have a number of people that have been hired. Half of them are actually alumni of San Mateo, so they know the campus very well. They will help monitor restrooms and hallways to make sure that students aren't wandering about campus. Every morning, students will have to go through a health screening. All the doors on the campus will be locked, and upon health screening, filling out the LiveSafe app and getting a green check mark, they will be given a wristband. At approximately 8:45, the campus aides will open up the classrooms to allow students into the buildings. Teachers have been asked to stand at their doors to make sure that when students come through the doors, they have their wristbands on and that nobody has kind of slipped by and bypassed the system. We also will be monitoring restrooms to ensure that no more than 2 students at a time are in the restrooms, and set kind of a schedule. San Mateo has just over 300 students that are returning to campus. And so when you look at the 2 cohorts, it's about maybe 145 to 160 is kind of the ratio. I can't remember exactly, like orange cohort might be slightly smaller than the black cohort. And so with 150 students, when we're used to more than 10 times that amount, I think we will be able to monitor students well to make sure that they are following the 4 pillars for safety. I think the next question is about personal laptops. In talking to PE, the students will be storing their personal equipment or backpacks if they bring them to campus in the football locker rooms or basketball locker rooms, so that they will be locked up while students go outside out to the stadium field. And so that will be the secure area for students to be able to leave their personal devices as well as Chromebooks.
Thanks. What time do you estimate students should arrive to school for check-in? And will students have temperature checks every day?
Temperature checks actually have been eliminated now. We have been doing them, but according to Sarah Devaney, our health coordinator, any of the positive cases that have been on any of our campuses have not been detected through a temperature check. And so we will not be doing temperature checks. LiveSafe app will be the way to go. We suggest arriving 15 to 30 minutes before class starts. We do open the doors at 8:45. We're going to see how things go. If we are able to process students relatively quickly, then obviously they don't have to come as early. We'll have to see. We will have 5 different health stations around campus, so students can check in at any one to get their wristband, and basically they're will be spread out about campus. Campus aides will be monitoring to make sure that they maintain the 6 feet of social distancing, and then at 8:45 the doors will be open to the buildings.
Do you already know where the 5 stations are?
Yeah, they'll be located throughout campus. So at the front of the steps of the school, the Spirit Lawn, attendance area, clock tower, by the M building and biotech, and under the overhang on lower A in the quad.
Oh, excellent. Okay, our next question is, with school resuming in person just before spring break and many people, including teachers, planning to travel beyond the 120 miles allowed by the county, many students and teachers will have to quarantine the first week or week and a half of school after spring break. Have you considered having the first week after spring break as everyone in distance learning, like many of the private schools are doing, in order to save the school the headache of figuring out the last minute logistics of having fewer teachers and students on campus?
Yvonne, do you want me to take this question?
I sure do, Kevin.
Okay, so look, we have to get started, and we do know that folks are traveling, and if they travel, they shouldn't come in. But our sense is that it's never going to be perfectly convenient to get started. This is the MOU that we established with our union. We think that our job is to follow the MOU. It's responsible to get started here before spring break. So we have a couple of days to make the kinks out. I was thinking about this on my bike ride home today that, people have probably been traveling. Spring break right now is not that much different than some of the other times just because, you could travel throughout and zoom in. So, and then, there are still a lot of teachers who will do this. We'll be going to campuses and providing backup support for sites. We think that, we can still carry on business. We think that there are enough kids for whom being on school campus is psychologically important. There aren't that many weeks left. We need to kick the tires and give kids a chance to come in. My sense is that many kids are yearning to come in. And so there's no good reason to wait. A lot of the questions so far have been around safety. But I do hope that, and Vaughn and I have talked about this, that there will be, and I've seen this in phase one and phase one, and then with the teachers who've already been back in phase two, that there is a sense of joy and anticipation to this whole experience. Yes, we're nervous. Yes, it's a heavy lift, but we're also really excited about getting started. And so having a couple of days here and then taking another week off doesn't feel like the right thing. And I'm not hearing that same thing from other schools. My sense is that from talking to other districts, they're beginning after spring break and they're not going virtual for the first week.
Okay. Okay, our next question is, will teachers in the classroom be teaching to Zoom students also? How does that work? Who exactly does the teacher teach to? Are the Zoom students watching the class being taught, or are the in-person students watching the Zoom class being taught?
I guess that's up to the student in the classroom because it is Zoom in the classroom. And so no matter what, the teacher will be teaching to both groups of students, those at home and those in the classroom. And so I guess it depends where you're focusing. But they will be, teachers will be teaching kind of to one audience, even though it's kind of a split audience between those present in the classroom and those that are at home.
Okay. I actually just thought of this question. So if you're an in-person student and you raise your hand, you can raise your hand in class. You don't have to raise it on Zoom. Okay. That's what I would think too.
Right.
Okay.
And I don't think you have to turn on your camera either, right?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Okay. My student's laptop will need to be plugged in after 3.5 hours of a Zoom class. We just tested it and it is down to 20% after the second class of the day, just before lunch break. Will students have a place to charge their laptops?
In the classrooms, we made sure by going around that outlets are easily accessible. When we look at the number of students in classes, some are quite small with 5 to 6 students. So if they were to sit along the walls there, they could easily plug in without any problems at all.
Oh, that's good to hear. Okay, will there be mandatory spots for students to eat their lunches? And what if it rains during lunch?
So we have discussed that all students will be required to eat outside, obviously weather permitting. We do have a big overhang, as well as possibly opening up the small gym to allow students to go inside if the weather does not allow them to spread out outside. That's something that we have to work on, and we have brought it up at principals meetings in terms of how many would be allowed in there, and obviously with social distancing. But students, we will have students leave the building to take off their masks to eat lunch outside and spread out where they normally do across the quad, the area in front of kind of Biotech M building, as well as the Spirit Lawn. And so with perhaps 150 students and some students leaving at lunchtime because of a not at school period, perhaps sixth period. We don't see it as a huge issue in terms of being able to have enough space for students to spread out to eat safely, to take off their mask and eat safely.
Okay. Yeah, the campus is pretty large. And also, that sort of leads us into these questions that are coming up about the number of students returning to school. So with so few students returning, it won't look like we need to do the AB cohorts. Are there any plans to expand that number of days for on-campus students? And then I'm just going to read the next one because they're kind of tied together. At open house, Ms. Shiu mentioned that San Mateo High School is considering allowing both cohorts to come in every day since the number of students who wish to return in phase 3 is small. I hope that doubling the number of students on campus during phase 3 does not cause there to be a limit on the number of students coming in for AP exams. Who will be allowed on campus in the first week of May to take their paper to pencil AP exam?
Right now, we are doing the 2 cohorts. For us to bring students back 4 days a week, we were told that we would have to rewrite our plan to submit it to the county. And in one of the principals meeting, I think half of our schools have fairly small numbers that we have considered taking, bringing back students 4 days a week. Kevin would like us to wait to reevaluate things towards the end of April to see if we would do that and rewrite the plans to submit them. Based on the number I gave you before, it was only about 320 students that are returning to campus. Bringing back AP students, I don't think we would go over our limit. That is something that we are working on because of some of the indoor spaces that we have to use as testing areas. Obviously, with the current, with AP standards of being 5 feet apart and current standards that we're using is 6 feet apart, obviously, we would need to use our gym areas to administer the AP exams. Right now, I don't believe there's a conflict in terms of the number of students on campus that would interfere with a number of students who are taking AP exams.
Okay. So would you then say that in May, when these paper to pencil AP exams happen, they will be given a priority so that we make sure those students are allowed in? Because we have solid numbers now, right? They filled out that survey.
Yes, yeah. That is all been done in terms of ordering AP exams and having them available to students. And so that won't be affected. So we can accommodate all of our students that are currently who currently have chosen to return to campus, as well as all of the AP students who are coming to campus to do pencil and paper.
Excellent, thank you. Update, please, about district school buses from Foster City to San Mateo High School. If there won't be buses, is there a way that students, will 10th graders be able to get a parking pass, please? So yeah, what's happening with the buses? And it's a good question because I've noticed that we've been having San Mateo High Union School District buses coming in and out of Foster City pretty regularly. They're empty, but it's like they're practicing their route.
Yeah, so maybe I'll take this one, Yvonne, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so one of the challenges we have is the bus capacity numbers that we can put on, the numbers that we can put on a bus. So, right now there's 6 feet of distance, and that's different than other counties are doing. So that's a question I have into the county superintendent about what to, if right now it's, even if the doors are open and you contact trace, we have the same expectations as they might for a VTA bus. So that's something that we're going to look at. Given our numbers, it's highly likely that we can, look at running a bus from Foster City as time goes on here. So we're interested in doing that. I think there was a second part to that, which was the sophomores and driving to campus. And I think, Yvonne, you and I talked about that. And we felt like there wasn't a problem given the numbers to have sophomores drive, but I'll defer to you on that part.
Yeah, we won't be doing parking passes given kind of the short timeline. We usually do them for kind of semester and year-long parking. And with the small numbers, I don't foresee us having the parking issue that we have in the past in terms of number of cars in the parking lot.
Okay. Yeah, and in previous years, so I have a student who graduated, and I just want to let everybody know who has sophomores that might be driving in. If the parking lot is full, there are actually parking options around the school on the streets.
And then the other piece on that is that we won't have the adult school. So that's a whole
Oh.
other addition.
So they could actually park there without a
Yeah.
permit. And
So-
sometimes the adult school infringes onto the San Mateo High School parking lot.
Yeah, I'm all aware. Yeah, we're well aware of the typical problems there. But this year, the one good thing about where we are is that parking should not be a problem.
Oh, so that sounds like there'll be good parking. Great
Yes.
news. Thank you. Okay, our next question is about marching band. Would marching band be meeting before first period, before 9 a.m.? Because it's typically a 0 period, correct?
So I guess for clarification, currently marching band meets 7th period. It's during the school day. So I don't know if this person is referring to next year looking at marching band being 0 period again, but it is currently scheduled 7th period. There are some rules and guidelines because of the instruments that are in marching band that, are not allowed. And so right now, the music teachers have bought or will be processing an order to buy covers, kind of like we have face masks. These are masks for their instruments to cover and I guess slow down the flow of air and other things that might be coming out of the instruments in marching band. However, I do know currently part of marching band color guard has been practicing on the weekends. Obviously, that doesn't require students with instruments and blowing and expelling of air, as well as Mr. Tribuzzi has invited the percussion group on campus. And so they are working on working with the teachers of choir, as well as band to see how we can accommodate them and create a safe space for students.
Thank you. Can you please clarify the quarantine expectations for students returning to in-person instruction? For example, if a student participates in a weekend tournament that is more than 120 miles from home, the student will need to quarantine for 10 days and cannot attend any in-person classes with their cohort until after that quarantine. How should these situations be communicated to the school? And they wouldn't be considered absences, correct? Because they will still be able to attend in their Zoom classes.
Correct. We just discussed this today at principal's meeting, that we do have a form online where parents can fill out regarding their students' absence. And so there, I believe there will be added a question there to indicate that your student perhaps is in a cohort that is supposed to be on campus, but will not be attending for a certain reason. And teachers can still mark that that student despite being in a cohort and the expectation of being in class, attendance being marked distance learning engaged so that we know that the student is still participating. So no, they would not be marked absent unless they were not participating or, didn't answer a teacher's question or didn't turn in, an assignment or however the teacher is measuring a student's participation during that class period.
Okay, so I think that sort of answers this question, but I'll ask it anyway, just in case we need more details. If a student is scheduled for an in-person day with their cohort and needs to be virtual instead that day, what communication is required to school from the parent? What communication is required to the teachers from the student?
It would be filling out that form that we have online So they will be updating it to indicate that the student is going to take classes from home for whatever reason. One of the things that we will go over on Thursday is I know in the past students would come to school deathly ill because they did not want to miss a class or a test or whatever it was, and would, come like totally sick with their like thermos of tea and a box of tissues. That we are highly discouraging that any student that even feels a little sick should stay home. Because if we see that the student is not feeling well at school, we will immediately send them home. And so that's one of the perks of distance learning, that the student would be able to still stay engaged at home and not feel like they're missing out.
Great. Okay, on the last Q&A, Mr. Gelb indicated that the school is still deciding whether or not to yonder their cell phones while cohorts are on campus. Please provide an update on this decision and insight into this decision.
We just had the discussion at our admin meeting, and while certainly we don't want it to be a deterrent, we have noticed when students have been in our pods, and teachers have been upset because they can tell, like, even though they're on campus, a student is on their cell phone instead of being engaged in class. And we did see that a lot, with students that came to school in their pod playing games or texting friends while they should be in class. Obviously, teachers are going to be telling students to put the devices away and, possibly offering a yonder pouch to resist the temptation. But we also don't want it. Yonder is not made to be used as a punishment. And we also do not want to use it as a deterrent to keep your student from returning to school. And so it's a delicate balance of making sure students understand, hey, you're coming back to school to see your teacher and be in a class, some of the social aspects of it, and not to just kind of, text your friends, because you could do that at home.
So should students bring their yonders with them to class, the first day of class?
If they still have them and would like to use them to resist the temptation, of course. I'm sure teachers would probably be like, yes, instead of having to, worry about yet like another thing in camp, in their classroom. If a student has their mask up, if, they are, staying socially distanced, now it's, are they on their laptops engaged in class, or are they on their phones?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Dr. Skelly previously mentioned that a student who selects return to school could later decide to continue virtual learning, and that would be vice versa. If a student returns to school with their cohort and decides that they would prefer to finish the semester via virtual learning, how should we notify the school?
I think this is your question, Yvonne.
Sure. We have had them contact Mr. Holt. So when we sent out the letters to all the families that had indicated that they would like to return to campus, the contact on there is Mr. Holtz. And so since then, we also have gotten, parents that have changed their mind and students that, have changed their mind to remain in distance learning. So
Okay.
Mr. Holtz is your man.
And would that work the other way if somebody's hearing, oh, wow, this is actually great, and they want to come back, they would also contact Mr. Holtz?
Yes, on a limited basis, because we need to kind of narrow down the numbers. Like I said before, in terms of students who might have teachers who are not on campus, then we need to make sure we have a solid number, because we have to place them in kind of a study hall area. And so those have space capacities.
Okay. Our next question is regarding summer session. How and when do students enroll for summer geometry?
I think maybe this is my question. I think there's stuff on the internet, and we send out information about summer school at least sometime soon. So if it's not available now, and if you check on our website, you can't find it, then stay tuned. It'll be coming.
Great. And that's on the district website?
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. This fall, assuming we are all back to somewhat normal, will each school be allowed to follow its own bell schedule as in years past? Or will we all have to follow the same schedule like we did during this school year?
So we've had some conversations about this. I would anticipate that we will go to some sort of a block schedule in the fall that eliminates the day where kids have 7 classes, and we'll probably have an AB schedule where it goes AB all the way through, just to reduce the amount of passing time and the number of students going back and forth, at least to start. That would be my goal. We've had some conversations, but we haven't built the schedules out. We'll probably give some latitude for schools to do things a little bit different depending on things like tutorial or when they have office hours. I think we will probably move to an 8:30 start time. The 9 o'clock or the later start has been a hit, I think, with kids, maybe not with their parents, to see kids sleeping till 8:59 and then tuning in their pajamas. But I think we recognize that that moving to 8:30 is probably what we'll do, and then things like zero period. Those are some of the details, but that's the conversation that we've had so far.
Okay, so you are considering keeping all schools to an 8:30 start time throughout the district, which would also mean we'd have a later end time?
Yes, and San Mateo has typically had their staff meetings at the end of the day, and some of that was for transportation to get buses back to Foster City, and then also provide transportation for athletics. So while I say those things about San Mateo, sometimes San Mateo is the exceptional child, if you will, and so there may be a little bit of difference there. Those details we got to work out.
Okay, but it also sounds like we're moving to the AB schedule like San Mateo, which I think we're the only school in the district who does the AB schedule, correct? So then I think that sort of puts all the other schools back into the same position we have on our A days, where we end at 3:15. So now we'd be ending at 3:45.
Correct. That's probably right.
Okay, and then will that push sports to later start times?
Probably, yeah. I mean, there's only so much wiggle, yeah, everybody likes a later start, but then when you start talking about going
Nobody
to
wants the
3:15,
later end time.
That's right. So
Can we just shorten up all the classes?
well, that's another good question, right? I mean, in typical years, there's a requirement of 64,800 minutes for high schools. Obviously, we're not meeting that now, but that's been relaxed. So we have not yet heard from the state what the expectations are for minutes and how minutes will be counted. My sense is
we might have some flexibility there.
We might. So that's why we haven't, we've had a lot of reasons to not, focus on it yet, but those are some of the things that we're talking about.
Okay, well, I look forward to hearing more about that. I'm sure it will be a heated discussion throughout the summer.
Right, and we are somewhat of a unified school district, but and this is not just a San Mateo case. I've yet to be in a district where the bell schedules for high schools are the same. So this pandemic did bring us closer, although they're still not exactly the same. So this is not unusual to have these kinds of issues.
Okay. Okay, our next question. Well, that actually answered one of the questions already about changing the start time. Okay, we decided not to return to school for the rest of the school year. However, we want to be in person for next fall. Will there be a priority for students that go back now? Will my student have the same opportunity as the students that are going back now?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. Distance learning and teaching have been incredibly challenging for both teachers and students, assuming health conditions continue to improve, do you anticipate a need to offer virtual options in the fall as a choice for families?
I would say that it's not going to be the same. You're not going to be able to stay home all year. So there will be some in-person component, whether it's a couple of days a week or to take finals or tests or things like that. This experience is going to change education, full stop. And so there are a lot of issues that are coming up that we're thinking about, but we don't yet know what we're going to do.
Okay, so you're anticipating a requirement for students to come into class for some things.
Yes, yeah.
Nobody
I'm
will be
gonna-
able to be 100% remote.
Right, and I'm sitting, I got to charge my computer. That's why I'll disappear here. Not that somebody beat me up.
Okay. Go find your charger. I'll go to Yvonne. I'll find a question for Yvonne. Okay, this one. The CDC just lowered the distance requirement between masked students on school campuses to 3 feet. This means we can move desks closer and use hallways as 2 ways. Will we increase the number of students allowed on campus and in classroom and thus only need 1 cohort instead of 2?
I think this goes back to the question that was asked earlier about, can we go to a AABB, to like a full everybody there? And so, we're going to look at that as soon as we can. Yvonne mentioned it may be that we decide to do that sooner. We just have to start and then, knock out the kinks and go there. I don't anticipate, at numbers of a quarter of students wanting to come back that we couldn't bring students in. We have 2 criteria. One is sort of the hybrid experience, and the other is 30% of our students on campus. And so even if we brought everybody back at San Mateo, we'd be under the 30% capacity or the 30% of enrollment.
Oh.
And then just the other part of the question, while the CDC has reduced the number of feet per student, San Mateo County is still requiring us to do 6 feet of social distancing in the classroom.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't anticipate us going to 3 feet or needing to either, frankly, for the rest of this year.
Okay. But maybe the start of fall, we might be looking
Yeah,
at.
I do anticipate it going to 3 feet. And I think that, I think every 16-year-old plus will have the chance to get a vaccine. I just think we're going to be in a dramatically different place in the fall than we are now. At least that's my fervent prayer.
Yeah, maybe we'll have reached herd immunity at that point.
Yeah, we should. I mean, if the scientists are right.
Fingers crossed, right?
Right.
And I think there was another part to that question, Sandy, about hallways.
Oh yeah,
San
the
Mateo
hallways.
San Mateo hallways are wide enough to accommodate 2-way traffic. One of the rules that we'll be going over basically is stay to your right, with lockers not being used because we don't want congregating, students by lockers and things like that, and just kind of more touch surfaces. Basically, staying to the right as much as possible when they're walking down the hallways. As you know, also at San Mateo, we have kind of the stairwells and the banisters. And so we'll just do on the right is like, just like traffic, is one way. And then on the left is the opposite way. So
Yeah,
we have directionals outside. They're spray painted with arrows, and inside we have signs all over the place.
Yeah, I have to say that, Yvonne, that I was impressed with your signage. I think it's good for kids who are future drivers to know what side of the road to go on. And then I think your signage is good. I think you ought to share it with Burlingame if you haven't. So it's well done.
Oh, it's good to
Thank
hear.
you.
I can't wait to see it. And you said that they'll be able to use their lockers.
No, they cannot use
Oh,
their
they
lockers.
cannot.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Great. Thanks for
So
clearing that up.
backpacks are
You're
back.
carrying your books all. It's like middle school all over again.
Yes.
Okay. With 2 positive COVID-19 cases in 1 month, how are we going to open the schools with children not vaccinated?
Let me, Yvonne, maybe you want me to take this, maybe you'd rather. I mean, we have tested, we've done thousands of tests on kids, and our positivity rate is very low. So if you think about the safety measures that we have, we've got almost all of our staff at least 1 jab, and many of them will have 2 by the time spring, and they'll be through they'll be fully vaccinated, at least as defined. We feel very confident that the safety measures we've had will not lead to any spread. I mean, we've had cases, but we don't have any cases that we can point to that point to kids or staff members transmitting the virus between each other while they're on campus. Yes, there is going to be COVID in the community. We are probably going to have cases. I don't know if you had Dr. Lutmeyer on your communication, so we can expect this, but we really believe strongly that we have a system set up in terms of safety that is just way ahead of most places, and we have a commitment on everybody's part. And it's been my experience now, when schools have opened phase 1, and then also at all the athletic events that I've been to and other activities that students do, they get it. They understand what's going on. Dr. Lutmeyer uses the analogy of going out without a mask now is like going with your pants down. So, people are going to do what they're supposed to be doing, and we're going to get through this, and we're not going to contribute to any sort of community spread. We feel very confident that the benefits of having kids back on campus to begin that process now is going to hold us in good stead for the fall, and it's going to be good for kids and families in this next couple of months.
Okay. With the county in the yellow as far as metrics go, how long do you anticipate the need for temperature taking? But we're not doing temperature taking, so it would just be app check-ins.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about, we're not in the yellow yet.
No.
We're in the what is it, orange phase, and but I looked at the metrics today because they were updated, and we are in the yellow in terms of the equity index, and then in terms of the positivity rate for tests, but still the number of cases per 100,000 puts us into the orange. So that's what's keeping us in the orange. The numbers are lower this week than they were last week. They still have a ways to go till they're 1 in 100,000, but they're headed in the right direction. Many people say that it's sort of flattening out, so it's going to take a while for us to get to yellow if we do that. San Mateo County is ahead of other places, and so we're hopeful that we get there. But as I look at this for the rest of the year, I'd say what we're looking at now is likely to be the format that we have for the rest of this year.
Okay, now we're moving on to, we got one more. How will we handle students who are not eligible to be vaccinated in the fall 2021-2022 schedule because they're under the age of 16? This will be half of the student population.
So I think we need to wait and see. There are developments on the vaccine all the time. They're certainly looking at vaccines for younger folks than 16. And so we just need to wait. It feels like the fall is a galaxy far away. So we'll get there though.
Yep, things are changing, mostly for the positive though.
Yes.
Okay, senior questions. What is the plan for graduation?
We just went over that today. Six of the high schools will be using the events group, events to the T, of which they can only support 2 graduations on each day. San Mateo's graduation will be Friday, May 28th. There had been a lot of questions in terms of, can we, do a live graduation? And just like Kevin said, I think we have to wait and see what tier we're in. I think we were looking at by April 30th, May 1st, we would make a decision on what graduations would look like, whether or not we could do live or do the drive-through or other.
Do we know what time that is going to be?
It depends upon the situation. So if we do drive-through, it's going to be probably 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If we do it live, then we could possibly have, a time, where we would probably do like a 5 p.m. If there are limits on the number of gatherings, we could very well do an 11 a.m. and a 2 p.m. graduation in order to accommodate families. So we agreed, the principals agreed that we would hopefully have more information by April 30th, May 1st.
Okay, so it's over a month away, but at least. Okay, I'll ask this next one. Aragon administration has hosted a senior parent meeting to update parents on graduation. When will you be hosting a meeting for the San Mateo High School senior families, and will you be?
Well, I don't know how much more information I can give until, we have a solid idea of what is allowable by the county based on our tier and number of gatherings and how many, people can be in one place for how long. And so, until then, there could be a lot of planning, but it is a moving target. And so, if you wanted to have a meeting, we can certainly do some brainstorming, but we will not be deciding until kind of April 30th, May 1st as to how, what graduation will look like.
Okay, and that's working with the event planner. Where San Mateo High School is using the event planner?
Yes, all 6 schools are using the event planner. Yes.
Okay. Do you both support hosting senior activities and graduation on campus? Would you support rapid COVID testing like the athletes are participating in before games? So will seniors be able to have any kind of senior activity on campus?
The athletes don't participate in rapid testing. They do the regular testing like we do on a 3-week cycle. And so that is one of the other things for students returning on campus. They will be tested over the next 3 days and then again in 3 weeks. In terms of senior activity, again, it depends upon what the county will allow in terms of gatherings and number of people. Because there's everything from, I think it's currently, 20 maximum 25 people from 3 different households, and so that doesn't allow us very much leeway. And I don't know what senior activity you'd want to do with like only that many people. So obviously, we are excited to, do some activities for our seniors, and make up for some lost time. But a lot of that really depends upon what the county will allow in terms of health and safety.
Okay. And so I'm just going to go straight into this question because I think this is probably where I think I see a lot of our families getting frustrated is because they see other things happening in our district, in our county. So it's not really our district because this is a private school. So I just saw that Mercy High School Burlingame had a drive-through prom, Enchanted Forest. They got dressed up and took fun pictures at the school. Would we be able to do something similar for our senior class? They will be missing both their junior and senior prom otherwise. They can wear masks and we can set up a 3-foot line to separate people in the photos. Please, all capitals, give us the opportunity to try this.
I am not sure about like the guidelines. I don't know, Kevin, if you have that and, whether or not, if it's like senior only, that I don't know how many participants were at Mercy Burlingame when we have over 400, students.
When I got this question, I actually went and looked at the Facebook page for Mercy Burlingame.
Mhm.
And yeah, it did not look safe.
Yeah, I mean,
There were unmasked people in a limo.
you
All
know,
Yeah,
there. It was kind of crazy, but at the same time, I'm thinking, there might be a way we could do it right, where everybody can still dress up, wear their masks, and take pictures, because it also looks like that's all they really did, was actually drive up to the school, take pictures in the front of the school. And
So let me just say, I don't know who sent this question in, but I do think we're all in a collective sense of mourning about some of the things that seniors have missed out on, and it's been substantial. And so, we, we're care about that. It seems a little bit remarkable that Mercy, an all-girls school, would have an event like this. I mean, it just asks for responsibility for plenty of, I can't imagine how they did the social distancing and in groups like that. And I understand the interest in doing things that give kids high experiences. That's why I was so excited to see the kids dancing, and we want to do those things. And, we talk a lot here about rules and things like that, but we really do want to make it a joyous experience to be on campus. And I think we're going to have to encourage our students to see this as a chance to do different things that they'll talk about to their grandkids that won't be the same as other classes. I mean, we're just not going to be able to do those things. And that's sad, but we just have to face that reality.
okay. So at what point is grad night not under the jurisdiction of the district and the school? This is, I think, really, there's another question about this also. So normally graduation is the evening of the last day of school. If San Mateo's graduation is not on the date that we expected, 5/27 or 5/26, and the grad night is prior to the graduation, which is now May 28th, is it under the school guidelines? So is grad night still gonna, are they still able to plan a grad night as usual, or are they now binded because they haven't officially graduated?
my understanding, and I don't know, Kevin, you can jump in at any time, is if, grad night, you're planning it without, the school's input, or we're not doing anything, in particular, then, that is kind of an activity on your own because it is not school or district affiliated.
That's right. Yeah, we're not taking any ownership whatsoever of grad night.
Okay, so they could go ahead, our committee, the senior parent committee can go ahead and plan what they want. It's just, you're just not affiliated, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sure.
However, I do know there was some talk about whether or not they would use the stadium field for an outdoor activity. So I don't know, Kevin, if then it brings it back to us, or they would just be considered renters, and then, it would kind of break the tie, like, your tie to the school.
Yeah. And right now, I think the county is pretty clear about gatherings that they need to be essential functions. And so the health department would have quite a bit to say. And, we're going to, if we rent facilities, they would be within the guidelines of the county.
Okay. We have one last question regarding seniors. Will you make sure that there is no conflict with the graduations happening at the same time, specifically for middle college students and their homeschool graduation date and times?
Yeah, they won't. They're not conflicting. Middle college, I think, is quite a bit. Is like it usually is early in the week, either Monday.
I think they're Monday or Tuesday,
Yeah.
and San Mateo is on Friday. I think I want to say the schools are, I think Wednesday is Aragon and Cappuccino. Don't quote me on this. Then another day is Hillsdale and what's the other school? I'm forgetting, Burlingame. And then we are on Friday with Mills.
Okay. Okay, this is a statement regarding the current times. And normally I don't like to go off topic, but I just wanted to read this to give the respect to this person. The entire school district has remained completely silent on the recent movement of anti-Asian hate crimes. It may not be directly related to return to school, but if we don't know the district's position on this, as a parent, how can I be sure if my kids can be safe at school? And Dr. Skelly, I know you did send out a letter last week, sort of discussing this, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and I've sent 2 messages to staff about this over the past couple of months. You know, we are in a time of great tumult and divisive and trauma, and what's happening to our Asian American and Pacific Islander brothers and sisters is something that we all need to take heed to and learn from history and really guard our civilized society. And so, you know, if I haven't been clear enough on this, I want to be, and I think I speak for the board and for many, what is a large part of our community at San Mateo High School, particularly. And so, I think we're always interested in the safety of students. I think this is about the most responsible community I've seen in terms of issues of student safety and respect for each other. And San Mateo High School administration and student activities and athletics, and it's a fantastic community where our students are learning how to get along and work in a community. And, on the contrary, I mean, I think that there's a lot for our students to learn from being in school. And, do things happen on our campuses that we would not like to have happen? Yeah. And we live in a larger society where these things go on. But they're dealt with in ways in our schools that we should all be very proud of and we should embrace. And they got to be learned by getting out and interacting and making mistakes and learning from those, and being in classrooms where you confronted with those ideas. So I'm proud of the work that we're doing. I'm proud of the safety we have. It's a journey, but we're doing good stuff there, and we want to continue to do that. So the parent who has a concern, I would really encourage them to reach out to me and share where that concern is coming from and how we can do more to alleviate it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Skelly. So we went through all the pre-submitted questions now, and I'm looking at what's recently been submitted, and there really isn't that much more, and they're pretty direct questions. Would everybody be okay with staying on just for a few more minutes? Does everyone have a few more minutes? Dr. Skelly, Yvonne?
Sure.
Okay, we'll just get through these quickly then. Is the school going to serve hot lunch?
I don't know about hot lunch every day, but lunch meals will be served. It will not be a la carte. So students will all kind of be given whatever is kind of prepared that day. A la carte before used to be they could buy bags of kind of chips or, separate items, but it will be just a meal. So all students will receive the same meals.
Okay. My child will not be returning for in-person learning. Are there additional steps parents need to take to advise the school of this?
No.
Okay.
With the survey, if you did not respond to the survey, the default was that you were remaining in distance learning.
Okay. And will we be changing for PE class? And if so, what clothes do we bring to change into?
There will not be any locker room access, so we're just advising students to wear something comfortable that day. PE teachers are aware, so they won't be doing anything, strenuous that would require students to have to change. But if it's cool and breezy outside, to bring a sweatshirt, wear comfortable clothes on days that you might have PE.
No high heels on your PE day then.
No.
Okay, my student is a senior and has no third period. Where will they go during this time?
We are working on areas, either the library, NPR, the biotech conference room, depending upon kind of numbers of students with not at school periods, as well as students who are at school but have teachers that are not at school. So we will make changes to their program and email those out to students so they know which room to report to during which period.
Great. And are you collecting info on student vaccinations? Just curious if things will open up even more if the percentage of kids who have gotten vaccinated goes up.
At this point, we haven't started doing that. I will not be surprised if the state adopts an expectation that students get vaccinated as they do for other parts to go to school. But right now, it's given that it's an experimental drug, you can't make staff or students become vaccinated. That's all the public policy that we're watching.
Okay. According to the return to school instruction, the first days of school is Wednesday, 3/31, all ninth grade students, period 1 through 7. Will this day be in person or online?
It will be in person for all freshmen, online for everybody else.
Okay. Jumping forward to the next school year, 21-22, will there be meeting during the summer to discuss the next school and what it will look like, depending on pandemic status, of course?
Yes, there will be.
Okay. Are Yonders going to be back next year? If so, is it voluntary?
When we have done Yonder before, it has not been voluntary, so every student will have one. That's something that is in discussion because we had some pretty good success when we did use it. And so it is certainly something that we are talking about.
Okay. Are ninth graders going to be offered Yonder bags this year?
For returning to school for such a short period, no. However, we will make them available if they wish to Yonder, or if a teacher is having an issue with a student constantly using their cell phone, it will be offered to them to Yonder their phone so that we don't have to send the student home or confiscate the cell phone for that time to get them to focus on class time.
Great, thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. Great information. We got through the questions. I just want to read a statement that was sent in. I just wanted to thank Superintendent Skelly for his leadership during this incredibly challenging season. Every email he sent was laden with such hope and optimism, yet a realistic look at the current situation. I eagerly opened every email and often shared his encouragement with others. Thank you, Superintendent Skelly.
You're welcome.
And then we also have lots of other thank yous coming through. So yes, I'd like to thank both Dr. Skelly and Ms. Shiu for being here tonight and patiently answering all of our questions. I'm sure there will be more after school starts because, you know, it's always a moving target. But I think we definitely need to start somewhere, and this is a great place to start and a great time to start as numbers are coming down and everybody's getting vaccinated. So hopefully next year in the fall, we will have a very successful return to school. Thank you again, everybody.
Thank you.
Sandy, can I just say one thing?
Of
I
course.
really do appreciate the grace and goodwill and hard work that everybody's put into this. And I particularly want to thank you, Sandy. I tell you at the biweekly PTO presidents meetings that we have, we'll have one tomorrow, that there's a special place in heaven for PTO presidents and their leadership. It's not easy. Sometimes you have to defend dumb things that come out of the district office. But as I tell you, there's a special place in heaven for PTO presidents, and this isn't it. But we will get there, and we really do appreciate your leadership as well.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Skelly.
Sandy. Yes, I appreciate you too. Thank you very much, Sandy. Just a reminder for those of you that do have students coming back and would like to join us on Thursday, the San Mateo High School administration will be holding a meeting in English at 5:30 to go over the kind of return to school instructions that we want students to follow. We will do the same presentation at 7 p.m. In Spanish for our Spanish-speaking families. So if you have a student coming back and want to know more about the expectations, we will see you on Thursday evening.
And the link is on the webpage?
Yes, it's on the webpage where the letter for the cohorts went out, times for COVID testing over the next 3 days, and the Zoom link.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you again, everybody, and thank you for staying overtime.
Thank you.